Will, if you it's okay with you, we can start. Tadi saya tanya Pak Prof Lindner, oke kalau Anda punya pertanyaan, apa namanya, angkat tangan, jadi tidak perlu menunggu sampai beliau selesai berbicara. That's about it, sir. And we having Pak Rektor by 11:30. Boleh langsung please, sir. Okay, it's your time, sir.
One, two, three. Yeah, it works. Okay. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, first maybe I introduce myself. My name is Johannes Lindner. I'm from Austria, it's a country in Europe, and I'm the head of the Department for Entrepreneurship Education and Value-Based Business Education at the University Teacher College, Vienna, and then we have a second faculty campus, which is in Dengan. I'm also the head of the Center for Entrepreneurship Education at the Austrian Ministry of Education, and I'm the representative of Austria against the European Commission in the field of entrepreneurship education. This is more or less what I'm doing. I'm very proud that you have put my flag here. Wow. I'm very impressed. I'm impressed about the poster there. Wow. Good. What do I want to do is to speak about entrepreneurship education. And it's always good to know what the target group has for an understanding about entrepreneurship education. Therefore, I ask first, who knows the term entrepreneurship education in the room? When you do know it, give a sign. Do you know the term? Please give a sign. Just shake your hands. Students, who knows the term entrepreneurship education? Okay, it's a not well-known term. That's fine. It's good for my understanding, because otherwise I would talk a bit different when I know that you know what I'm talking about. Okay, we have the presentation here. I will walk a bit on the other side. Good. In my introduction about entrepreneurship education, in particular why it should be in the initial teacher training, I like to talk about two questions. The first question, in my opinion, entrepreneurship education makes a tremendous difference when we are doing this. You are in the privileged situation that you will be the teachers in your country, and in my opinion, this is a wonderful job. The two questions which I like to stress is, the first one is, why is entrepreneurship education an important part, and it should be a part in the regular syllabuses and in the regular hours in each kind of school, from primary education up to upper secondary education, and also in the inside the initial teacher training. And that way I will explain you what is entrepreneurship education and why it should be inside. The second is, what is entrepreneurship education? Yeah, the pictures are from Austrian mountains. Our country, 80% of our countries are mountains. It's the Alps, but we have also a couple of cities. I'm coming from Vienna. When you would visit me in Vienna, you would go really to the top center. My office is directly at the cathedral. It's a very unusual place to work. My building is from the 14th century, where I'm working inside. Originally, it's going back to the 8th century. It's a really very unique building to work. Why entrepreneurship education? The term entrepreneur was originally used to the 19th century just for businessman or businesswoman. That's it. This was the use of the term. It is a French word, and it was the use for the more modern-oriented businessman and businesswoman, because in the 19th century there was a change in the economy going on. The change was, it was called today industrialization. It was the beginning of the industrialization in the 19th century, and at that time, for modern-oriented entrepreneur, it was used the entrepreneur term. And And the 19th century was full of wars in Europe. There was a lot of wars going on, a lot of wars which we never think about it. We are now thinking particularly about the wars of the 20th century, but in the 19th century, each year there was a war. It was not a peaceful time. And in this not peaceful time, there was then a war where French words were taken away from our language. And we were using German words. I'm coming from a country where we are speaking German. And the term entrepreneur was no more used. 1911, in the 20th century, the term entrepreneur was coming back. Coming back by a definition from an economist which is quite well known today. It's Yusuf. And his orientation was, he wanted to explain why is a society dynamic? What makes the dynamic in a society? Why is a society successful? And he's an economist, and he did not explain this with aggregates, large numbers. He explained it by humans. He said, each society needs humans who like to create new ideas. This is the definition which is today used for the term entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person who creates something new. It is not automatically only a business-oriented term. It could be used in arts, in technology, in pedagogic, in each field. We always need persons who are able to create new ideas and to know how to implement it. That's the simple definition of an entrepreneur. And when we are looking around, we see a lot of fantastic ideas in our societies. And many of the ideas are going back to people, to humans, to entrepreneurs. And I would appreciate when you make a small talk with your neighbor, just with one other person, about the most impressive idea in the society, which you know. I put some ideas here, which I like a lot, just to show all these ideas were made by humans. The first bicycle was made by a person. The chairs, with this very unusual way to put woods in this strange round things. This is penicillin. The rights that women are allowed to elect in a democracy. The first airplanes. This is something which you maybe do not know, but it's Vienna Schnitzel. It's a food which everybody in Austria likes a lot. It's the most favorite dish for kids. Do you know why it is has this? You see, it's meat and there's something around it. And the idea to put this around was made by a guy from a restaurant, okay, by a cook, because there was a fashion in the 18th century that imperial people were eating meat with gold around it, with real gold, because they wanted to show that they are very rich. And yeah, real gold was for the ordinary people. It means for us not possible. Therefore, they made something like this around it, and it looks a bit like gold. That's the Vienna Schnitzel. And we are putting it now around a lot of things. Some people maybe forgot that it should be a kind of gold around it. Therefore, hopefully, you will always appreciate that you are now eating gold. Okay, please start to talk with your neighbor. Just 1 minute. Which ideas do you like a lot? Which ideas are really fantastic? Is it the coffee in the morning? Is it a particular beautiful design of something? What do you really like? 1 minute. And maybe you also know the entrepreneur who makes this idea. Just 1 minute, talk to your neighbor. Which idea impress you in Indonesia or internationally? Which do you use a lot? Just 1 minute, talk to your neighbor. Talk is allowed. Which is your favorite idea? Facebook, you like Facebook, social media. That's a very good idea. I like it also a lot. Yeah, it's easy to connect people all around the world. Which idea do you like a lot?
Tokopedia. What is Tokopedia? It's like e-commerce.
E-commerce. It's an e-commerce platform where you can go shopping. Okay, you like to go shopping. Which kind of idea do you like? Oh, he's shy. Like that way he likes to sleep. But sleeping is a natural thing. It's not a creation by humans, probably. But he likes a watch, and I think he likes his mobile phone a lot. And that way mobile phones are probably made by humans, for sure. Which idea do you like?
I think Ojek is online that provides us online Ojek transportation.
Sounds very good.
It's really helpful in Indonesia.
I was very impressed when I was the first time in Indonesia. Checker, is it right? It's a motorbike which are driving around the whole cities, and there's a really mass of them. I think 300,000. So I was very impressed about this idea. Which kind of idea do you like? She likes languages. Shopping. You like shopping. Do you like to go out? That's the idea. I think maybe it's made by humans, in particular humans. Do you have a special idea which you like a lot? You like shopping too. In that way, it looks like shopping is popular. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter which kind of idea you like particular. It is just important to know that all these ideas, hopefully a lot of them were really good ideas, are made by humans. And it's not an automatism that humans have ideas. We know based on research that in Europe, only 20% of the 14-year-old students have the opinion that they have own ideas. Because they are living in a surrounding where their parents do not have the feeling that they have all chances in the society and they could realize ideas. Therefore they think, I'm not important. My ideas, no one takes attention to my ideas, and therefore they think, I have no idea. Of course we know that is something what you can learn. Everybody can learn to have own ideas. This is one important reason. Entrepreneurship means we liked that our society, all youngsters are learning how they can participate in our society. If we are not learning this to the kids, only the kids who have a good socialization, have a good background, will learn this at home. And it's important to learn this inside the school. For the younger kids, we call this maybe self-vacancy. For the older one, we call it entrepreneurship education. That we know we are able to do things. Second reason. In our society, we are living in a very special situation. Maybe in Indonesia too, maybe in Indonesia not for the whole society, but the average family has only one kid in Europe. Average family in Asia, in China, and in several other countries has also one kid. It means 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 6 persons who really love this one kid. They will organize a kind of education which will give full package of service to this one kid. This is not the way of education that this will be an independent person. It will be with 15 a person who loves to go shopping. Of course, shopping is a cool thing. But it is when a whole society likes only to consume and not to create something new, we see, that's a duty for the society that we need to do something. Because based on research we know, when you had 3 kids or more, the oldest kids, they were normally kids who were very independent. Because they had to take over responsibility very early to the other brothers and sisters. And in that way, they did learn to do things. They had a can-do mentality. And only the youngest one, we call them sometimes prince and princess, are the one who get full package of service. Today, we have just the prince and princesses quite often. Therefore, we know this is a society challenge that we have to take care. Second reason. Third reason, I'm coming from a country in Europe which is today very rich. In some statistic, we call us the fourth richest country or the 10th richest country per person in the world. Although we are a very small country. Oh, we are really very small. We are smaller than Jakarta. And we are less people than Jakarta. But we know that we love to live today in a small country. In the past, Austria was a country of 60 million people and was the second largest country in Europe. We lost to some wars. That's history. It's a problematic history. But today we love to live in our small country. But it's not an automatism that a society stays rich. Each society needs new ventures. If you have not new ventures, there is a competition between the development of a society, you will fall back. That's a clear message for all societies. And therefore, it is also from this perspective important to take a look, how can I increase the number of new ventures in a society that you hold on? If there is going on the digitalization, you also have to find out how can we develop some ideas which are authentic for our region and which will develop our society in the 21st century. Fourth reason, there was made a research in America and in Europe, and we collected so-called key competences which each person should learn in Europe. And there are just 8 key competences. And number 7 is entrepreneurship and to be an initiative person. In America, they made the same, and they said there are 4 key competences, and number 1 is creativity and entrepreneurship. And that way, entrepreneurship is a hot topic internationally. And it's about you. It's about you, that you are learning. Each person has a great potential. Each person has the possibility to make a good future. You as a teacher or a future teacher, you are in the privileged situation that you are a multiplicator. You can change the life of kids in a very positive way. On the one hand, that you learn them the basic competences which we need to know, and on the other hand, that you learn them how they can use them to create something new and to develop something in a positive way for a positive society. An entrepreneur, in that understanding, means it's a function. It's a function with an entrepreneurial attitude, with an entrepreneurial mindset. Therefore, quite often when it's discussed, what should we teach to the kids, you find different explanation what is entrepreneurship, because there are different target groups, and therefore you have different elements what is important. The common thing is normally entrepreneurial mindset. We want that this is an open-minded person, and that we are open for new ideas, that we see we have an opportunity-oriented focus. Just to summarize 4 terms. Entrepreneur, I have explained. It's the individual approach for the person. Entrepreneurship means just the process. It's the process that I'm able to have an idea and I know what I need to do to implement it. Therefore, you also see there's a lot of competences inside, and this we call entrepreneurial competences. Inside Europe, we are now using so-called knowledge, attitude, and skills. I will get to this later on too. And finally, we have one topic which is called entrepreneurial ecosystem. And there is the 5th reason why we should talk about entrepreneurship education for smaller kids. At the moment, there is a soccer championship going on. What do you know about the training of soccer players? When do they start to be a soccer player? Do they start with 20? No. Why? But they are 20 when they are playing in Russia now. When do they start? Who knows it when they start? 3 years? 4 years? Probably 3 and 4 years. Because they know we need to start early, Our kids with 3 and 4 years love to play soccer because our kids with 3 and 4 years love to be proactive. They like to learn something. And that's also the age when we should start with entrepreneurship. Of course, with small things, and we call this to learn with small challenges. And just to bring an example, what does it mean to learn with small challenges? There are existing different ways how, for instance, how you could learn to ride with a bike. Today, the most kids are learning to ride with a bike, that they get a bike with some protection help. They will need 3 years, 4 years to ride on a regular bike. But of course, we know you could learn to ride a bike within a week. But it would be nice when you have some soft place around you, because you will fall down several times. But this would be the way that you are learning how to handle this, that I have something which is really unstable. And that's the way quite often that we give too much service to kids, and we are not accepting that they could salute a small challenge. And if they are not able to salute a small challenge, how they should be able to salute really large challenges when they get older. When they get older, then we always talk about, they need to take the risk. We need to learn this with small risks, that we are able to handle them, that we are able to handle later on a bit larger risks. That's something step-by-step learning, and not to jump in a large thing. That's a definition about entrepreneurship education. And 20 years ago, you would always read a definition of entrepreneurship is to have an own idea and to develop a new company. It was the normal definition. Today, when you take a look to this definition, and it's from the 21st century, skills is from a very, very large community who would agree to this definition, you do not find the term business inside. Because just to give an element, entrepreneurship, of course, is inside business, but it is inside all elements of the society, in all fields of the society. Today, the normal definition are, I'm able to have an idea, I'm able to know how to realize it, I'm an open-minded person, I know the kind of resources which I need to realize an idea. Sometimes you find I'm able to see an opportunity, and that's it. This is the normal definition of entrepreneurship today, which is used in Europe and in America, and I'm sure also in Asia. To have some variation is in context that we have quite different target groups. And it's okay when I'm a professor in a business school and I'm teaching people startups, that I say, for me, it's a startup orientation inside entrepreneurship education. It's clear because it's my job. I want to create new startups. When I'm working in a kindergarten, I will not speak about startups. I have a wider definition of entrepreneurship. Today, social entrepreneurship is getting really popular, and I know a lot of primary schools who are working with social entrepreneurship. The term social is just a short, it gives a different focus to the term entrepreneurship. Because I like to have new ideas for problems of the society. And I like to be a change maker. I like to change things in a small way. And we have a lot of problems in our society when we are looking around, small problems, sometimes larger ones, and we need the whole energy of the full population to salute some of the problems. Some problems in small things, and some problems when each one of us would reduce our use of plastic, we would change the system. And that's therefore social entrepreneurship is getting really popular, just to give a signal that we have a power. We normally see only our power when we go to election, that we can change the government, we could bring an opposition party or the old party again in power, but we have this possibility in many, many cases. We are much more powerful than we normally believe this. And social entrepreneurs are people who want to change things in some fields. Sometimes very small, sometimes very large, very impressive. Put also inside, because sometimes there's a question, what is a social entrepreneur? There's a wide definition. It could be a total business-oriented company, and it could be a classical non-profit, but with a good impact. The presentations, I can give it to you. you can cycle it around. There are no secrets. Social entrepreneurship is quite often connected today also with the SDGs. 2015, the United Nations declared 7 objectives for the next 15 years up to 2030 for the whole world. And the number 17 means only that we are cooperating. And it's not only a duty for the government, it is the whole society should participate, because some of the objectives are really large objectives, like the climate change and things like this. Not a single government is able to solve this problem. There needs the support of the population and also the cooperation with some other governments. This is the framework of key competences for lifelong learning from the European Union. I mentioned it before about the 8 key competences. This is a paper which was produced 2005. I was in the group who produced it. And it's a really popular paper in Europe. And it's accepted by all European ministers of education and all heads of governments, chancellors and prime ministers. And number 7 is sense of initiative and entrepreneurship. That at the moment we have a discussion that civic education, which you see here, will get more importance because, as you know, we have a lot of right-oriented governments in Europe at the moment, and therefore the European Commission says we need to empower the people in that way. This is a sport which you probably do not know. Is ski jumping. I'm coming from a country where skiing is the most popular sport. It's much more popular, like soccer. It's really much more popular. And in Austria, all of you would be skiing teachers too. You would be teachers, and you would all learn to be ski teachers. It's really popular. We have more than 300 ski areas, and that way that a lot of people are going skiing. It's a really popular sport. It's really cool to ski in the mountains. There is one sport which is a total artificial sport, because only hero can make it, and it's ski jumping. You would be a perfect ski jumper. You are tall, thin, and then when you would be a good ski jumper, but you are too old to learn it. Because ski jumping, you need to start also with 3 and 4 years, because I know quite well the most successful ski jumper ever. He's 23 years old, and he's jumping more than 200 meters, and he did win 8 gold medals at the Olympic Games and so on. He's really successful. And he said, someone asked him, is it very risky when you jump 200 meters? And he said, no. It was more risky when I was 3 or 4 years old, and I was jumping just 2 meters. Because I had no technique, I had no resources. This was really risky, and I had a lot of damages on my body. Today, when I'm jumping 200 meters, I know exactly how to jump, and if the organizers of the jumping take care of the wind, all is totally fine. I can jump 150, 200 meters, and it's not very risky. It was risky when I was 3, 4 years old, because I jumped larger and not so much or longer than my trainer said to me. He said only 50 centimeters, and I wanted to jump 1.5 meters. And a lot of my friends broke the necks at this age, because they were risk takers in this age, and they did fail in this age. But it's easy, and it was corrected. It would be not a problem with this short distance. It would be getting a really problem when you do not have the resource and you jump 200 meters. I only wanted to show this, that today we have a lot of politicians to create something really cool. And they could, for instance, build a ski jump area. And when they say to the young people, oh, please take risks, jump. It's totally fine, jump. It's a super jumping area. And it's sometimes the same with startup conditions, that they create new startup conditions. They did not give the basis to the people, but say, please found a company, go on, do this now. We need to have a basis. We need to learn this from the beginning, step by step, small things, then we are able to do also larger things. And we need to be very careful in the discussion, because in a lot of countries we have at the moment a really cool startup community discussion, and it's getting really cool to do something in this area. But there is a basic of resources to learn. Otherwise, it is really risky. And when we are not able and willing to learn this, then we make a not good investment for our future. Therefore, we should start in the school to learn it.
This was a research made in European countries to explain what is the reason that we are doing entrepreneurship education in our countries. You have more or less all European countries, and you see the explanation, active citizenship. This means I know how to participate in the society.
Social entrepreneurship, then you have venture creation, and then you have employability. These are people who did fall out of education system, and they're existing in some countries entrepreneurship programs to give them a good idea back that they have potential, although they did fail in the education system. Or they're unemployed people to foster the employability of them. When you are interested in that, you can download the whole research. It's made in 28 languages. It's in English and in all European languages. If you prefer to read it in French, you can read it in French. The German version, I would not think it's a good version, because when I was reading it, I didn't understand something. I think the English one is better. What is entrepreneurship? How can we do it? For us, entrepreneurship education has three perspectives. There is a core perspective. If you are not doing this, then in our opinion, you are not doing entrepreneurship education. The core means we develop new ideas and we learn how to implement it. That's the core. But the second perspective is so important. It means passion, fire, empowerment, inspiration. It's like in sport. In sport, we see this that our sport teachers have two functions. On the one hand, they are a trainer. On the other one, they are a coach, which gives inspiration to the whole team and that feeling that you are really doing something good. And I think sometimes we're missing this in some subjects, to get empowered, to get inspiration. With entrepreneurship, you would have a topic where you can do this. We need to celebrate when something is fine, when we have cool new ideas. We need really to celebrate this, because it's an important and good thing that we have this kind of ideas. And the third thing is, inside the education system, we do not want that we only foster the ideas of an individual. And we call this kind of behavior that you take away the other one. Therefore, we call it's important to use also entrepreneurial civic education. That you know we are a part of a society, and when I have good individual ideas, I should also participate in ideas for the society, for the democracy. To foster this, that it's an important thing, because when I want to have a good life for mine, I also should take care on the life of the other people. So there is a wide variation of different possibility of programs. And as I explained the three-year model, then we have different competence levels, from primary education, secondary education, and further education, the adult training. Then we have trainings that have no business focus. We have mixed approaches, and we have focus which is totally business, which is a startup program, or things like this. And then you see on the back and here the intention. At the moment, I'm only talking about entrepreneurship education. This does not mean that you can automatically entrepreneurial. This would be fine, but it doesn't work in that way. Therefore, we need some programs, education through entrepreneurship. This would be the normal thing in the education system, because we know everybody could learn to be an entrepreneur, but some people will not behave later on. And it's good that they learn it, because they have the opportunity to use it, and some of them will use it in some other context. And then we have a group, there is the education for entrepreneurship, that they are really founders of organizations, of startups, and so on.
But this is a good combination, education through, because it brings the people to education for entrepreneurship. And just to show why I was talking about that there are different target groups. And then we take a look which is the target group where I or you would work with. And I would say we have to point, do they have an idea? Do they have the intention that they like to use the idea to realize it? Do they have the competence to do it? And do they have resources? Maybe we start with number 7. Number 7 is a group, that's the entrepreneurship educators. Many of the entrepreneurship educators have ideas but not the intention, or have no ideas. The competences are sometimes quite good for entrepreneurship educators, and the resources are medium good or not good. Then we have investors. Investors have a lot of resources. They have sometimes really good competences, but they have no own ideas. They have not the intention to realize their own idea. They have the intention to invest in the idea from someone else. Then we have idea but no intention. Someone is studying in a technical university and is finding out a really cool idea, but it's not doing anything with this idea. Therefore, they're existing in some universities so-called spin-off programs to support people who developed a really cool idea that they could do something with this idea. The minimum would be that they sell the idea and not just say, oh, it was a research program, nice to know it, I published an article and bye-bye. It's not a good investment from the university person. Then I have an idea, I have the intention, but I have not enough competences. That's the reason why some entrepreneurship education programs looks like business education. Because they need to learn accounting, they need to learn some business administration things. That's totally fine for this group because they have the idea and they have the intention. Therefore, they need not this kind of program. Then we have a group, they have no idea, but I want to be a part of this cool startup community. And that way they need a lot of idea generation to find out that they also have an idea. They have the intention to do something, maybe they do not have enough competences, therefore need a mix of them. Then we have a group, they have an idea and the intention, a very good group. They need some more competences and they have maybe a lack of resources. And then, ladies and gentlemen, finally, group number 7 is our group. Our students, doesn't matter in which age group more or less, they have no idea. They have no intention. They are just developing the competences and the resources are limited maybe to $5 or something like this. But it's a wonderful group because it's a very open-minded group normally when you want to develop this with them. I'm now working more than 20 years in this field and I'm still working in the school and teaching 2 classes and the other time at the university. And I see that students really like to develop new ideas and they really like to implement it. Therefore, we need this kind of competences, knowledge, skills, and particularly again, passion and fire, like the guy who's playing music for us, to support us that we are singing. And there are existing some frameworks which give you an orientation which kind of competences you maybe take care. And there is one that says there's developing ideas, implementing ideas, and thinking sustainable. And the A1 up to C2 means the different competence level. A1 is total starter, A2 is A1 would be primary education, A2 maybe also primary education or secondary 1 education, B1 and B2 is upper secondary education, and C1 and C2 is university or adult training. You find the same structure in language reference frame competence and so on. This is our competence frame, how it looks like in Austria. It's a large thing. You can download it from the website, which I later on will show you. And in my opinion, when you are doing entrepreneurship education, in the beginning, you need to have a basic understanding. What do I mean with entrepreneurship education for my target group? Maybe the trio model is a help for you. Then you have to find out which kind of competences. We are not training the same competences like people in the startup program. We have different target groups and we need to see
which competences fits to the age group, to the competence level where I'm working with. Therefore, a reference frame could be quite a help. There is a flower reference frame now, it's called Entrepreneur, which is a help too. That way you have two selection possibilities to pick out what is realistic for your target group to do. And also to see how can I develop it when I have a time of 3, 4, 5 years. The school system has so much time. When I'm working at the university, I have 2 semesters. That's it. And it's a really tough thing for the students. When I work in a school, I have 5 years. It's so sensational to see how the students get developed in 5 years. I'm teaching 5 years entrepreneurship and up to 6 hours per week. And that way I have a lot of hours. It's a special school where I'm teaching, but it's a really privileged situation when the students have free time to develop own things. Some schools have innovation centers created inside the school just to foster that the students could have a room, an environment where they like to stay longer. And a lot of students stay after school time there to go on with the development of the things. Some universities are implementing rooms like this too in teacher training, just to foster that the teachers have a lot of potential and creativity inside. And it's fine, in my opinion, all areas are good. When you are playing theater or you are making handcraft, there's a lot of potential for entrepreneurship. How can you implement entrepreneurship education inside a regular school system? The easiest one is teaching principle. In the syllabus is written like, for instance, in our we have 15 teaching principles. Teaching principle number 1 is democratic education. We all are living in a democracy, and therefore our education learning style should be oriented democracy, or that all humans are equal. And there's also one that we want to develop new ideas. Of course, if you say everybody has the responsibility, it could also mean no one has the responsibility. That's a risk. Therefore, if you are not supporting this kind of implementation, it will be maybe an implementation for the paper and not really successful. But just to show some examples. When you say history and entrepreneurship, does this fit? What do you learn in history normally? I did love history. I did learn a timetable with imperators from Austria, and now exactly all was going on in this time of the imperator, which kind of wars we battled. Yeah, in fact, history was particularly oriented to the royal family, and I know the royal history of our country. I do not know so much the history of the ordinary people, because the ordinary people, you do not see them anymore, because we do not have palaces of ordinary people. But the society was changed a couple of times by ordinary people too, and therefore, in my opinion, when I would teach history, I would teach how my students can make history. And what does it mean to make history in the country? You have people who make independence, movements, maybe some of them fail, but it gives us a sign that there are individuals who try new things in a new way. And how can we do this in the existing society? Which kind of movements are existing? That's the way how you make history. And royal families, they were never for the whole life royal families. They also had one time the idea how I could get in the position to be king in this area. Normally by war or by wedding, or there's several different strategies how you can do this. Then we have a couple of didactic interpretations of regular hours where you are changing the things. We have a lot of new subjects in which you can find. Some subjects are called entrepreneurship, some subjects are called create a new future for the society. Some subjects just called project work, where you have 4 hours to make small projects with the kids, but it's, in my opinion, quite entrepreneurial. And then we also find some schools which are totally entrepreneurial oriented. You find also some universities which are totally entrepreneurial. I like to show you how we are doing this. We use small and large challenges. We start in primary education and go up to upper secondary education. And we have so-called family categories. Again, you see the TRIA model. These are our challenges for the area of entrepreneurial co-education. This is empowerment and inspiration. And there you have the entrepreneurial civic education. Some of the family categories, they need quite a long time. And some of them are relatively short. You need not a lot of lessons. You can put some of them in a standalone subject, or you can try to bring them through different subjects. It's always a question, how is the implementation possible, and in which status you are, because you cannot immediately change the syllabus quite often. Therefore, you need to experiment in some elements. This is the program for primary education. We are using a small mouse. It's called Levi. And these are the challenges for the kids when they are 7, 8, or 9, or 10 years old. There you see a small mouse. This is the cathedral where I stay. Just there is my office. Here would be my office. We are using this mouse. And when you are interested in that and you want to read a bit more, the whole program is available in English too, although it's not our mother language. Our mother language is German. But the program is existing in English, and very soon the program is also existing in Spanish, in French, in Netherlands, in Slovenian, Bulgarian, in several languages. And the website is called youstart.eu. Okay, it's not. It's here. It's here. It's here. When you want to assess yourself, how is our entrepreneurial learning at the moment? You could do it by this way. You could say, okay, we have different stages. We have an early stage, we are just beginning to do something. We are in the transition, or we have implemented and we are in the 21st century with this kind of competences. You take a look, which kind of learning activities, learning environment do we have at our school, in our university? Do we have it in the standards, in the curriculum? How is our assessment culture? Does it fit to this way of learning? How is the professional development of our teachers? How is the principles in the leading management? Do they support this, or they are problematic against this? How can we involve some stakeholders? These are the parents, this could be entrepreneurs, there are several different stakeholders. And how is the situation with the policymakers? In our country, we have on the one hand this learning orientation with the challenges, and we have also an entrepreneurship school program. That's our country, and in our country we only have 550 schools at upper secondary level, and 10% of the schools are now entrepreneurship schools. And it's a really tough certification program that you're going through. And there are 3 elements inside the school development program. One is that you implement learning activities. One is that you have a good professional development of your teachers. And one is that you have a good school development at all. You involve all teachers and not just 1 or 2 or 3. If you like to stay in contact with me, this is my email. If you like to stay in contact with me by Facebook, which is maybe easier, I would prefer, because I get daily 100 emails. And it's really difficult to answer them. On Facebook, it's much more easier. I have the same name on Facebook, but there are some people who have the same name like me. And maybe you write down Johannes, Lindner, and Vienna. Then you find me on Facebook. I'm very open for questions. I hope you did enjoy it a bit, although it was very new for you. Thank you for the attention. Do we have a microphone? Yes, we have a microphone. 1, 2, 3. Does it work? Yeah, it works. No, maybe we take the other one, but I think that's not easy, because...
Thank you.
Okay, now it works.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Eka Yudita. I'm the alumni of doctorate degree in this university, and I'm one of the member of what's so-called TISM. We are a member of 18 participants of leadership in education course led by Universitas Negeri Jakarta, Queensland University, and Head Foundation. So I have 2 questions here. First, just like leadership, is entrepreneurship is born or made? That's my question, the first question, because being an entrepreneur, people should has what you call tacit skills or tacit knowledge or tacit tacit things. Okay, so I'm very curious whether is it born or made or built? Yes, so it means because if we trade, of course, entrepreneurship can be trained, but we can see that many entrepreneurs are driven as different performance, just like Ciputra. It's different from the other entrepreneur. So that's the first question. And the second one is there any tool to assess the level of entrepreneurial potential? Because when you say that entrepreneurship should be start from early years, we can, if we have the tool, of course we can assess and then train people, train our kids properly. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you a lot. Would you maybe like to connect another question or maybe answer? Okay, maybe answer. I think it's quite interesting that the 2 questions, in my opinion, they are a bit connected. Internationally, we have 5 different streams to explain why someone has an entrepreneurial mindset. And there is one which is a person-oriented explanation. Which set of characters means that I'm an entrepreneur? And it was made a lot of research in the 50s up to the beginning, or up to the 90s about this. A lot of psychologists made quite nice research about this. Each research brought a different set of characters. There was never, therefore today we call this, it's the naive explanation. It's relatively naive that I see I have a set of characters, and when I have this, then I'm an entrepreneur. Therefore, we say that this was it's a kind of explanation which was not very successful. We have several other ones, like psychology explanation, which are much more successful. That we find regions in countries, although the whole country is not very entrepreneurial, but in this region, we were changing something in the environment, and you see that the whole villages or the whole valley was very entrepreneurial. And you see that therefore it's a good explanation that when I'm changing something in the environment which is more positive for the people who are living there, although the whole region is not like this, I'm able to bring on more entrepreneurial people out. Therefore I would say the first question, it is born, but the most things you can learn. That's relatively stable and state-of-the-art explanation. The second question is a very good one. Do we have tools to see the entrepreneurial potential, the entrepreneurial mindset? Yes, there are existing several tools. Some of them are existing in English too. The Chipotle Foundation and we are cooperating at the moment in a very large field research about entrepreneurial mindset in South Africa. Quite nice discussion inside the Global Entrepreneurship Network. But it's quite difficult to move them from a country to another country because there are intercultural elements inside, and it's also not that easy because when you want, for instance, to use it for primary education, to take a look how is the entrepreneurial potential, you have a language problem. You have to transfer this in a way that kids understand this. Therefore, the testing are not looking in the same way. There are existing several of them. Some of them sometimes criticized, some of them are quite popular. In Europe we have one testing which is called Octobussy. It's from a Danish foundation and it's a relatively popular tool. It's free, you can use it, it's online and you can test your own thing. It's existing in 28 languages and it's in my opinion it's an attractive tool. But we should not too hopeful that when you never were doing anything in this field and you're going inside, that you get automatically a high potential outside. Another question.
I see your hand. Stand up. Nama, profesi.
My name is Ramadan and I am from Faculty of Engineering, State University of Jakarta. And I have a question.
Profesi apa?
Faculty of Engineering, I am from Informatics and Computer. I have a question. I want to have some entrepreneur, and my problem is, what if there is a big opportunity, and also there is a big risk inside of it? Is it just we just going to lose it, or we just going to surrender our idea and we just walk around, or we get it and we take it and we take the big risk? And can you give me an advice?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. In my opinion, you're working in the field where you see a lot of people creating new ideas. Please take a seat. Informatics is a good resource for you because you know something where you can coding maybe and so on. And there's a lot of new things. The whole economy is now transferred in the digital economy. It's just a question where you are in your country. When you move to some countries, you will see that nearly all elements are now trying to go to a digital society. And if your society is not that quick, it's a really large opportunity for you because each society needs its own entrepreneur because there's a language challenge, there is a context challenge because some things are different in law. It's not that easy that things like Uber are successful in all around the world. It's a single phenomenon probably. There's a lot of activities going on in different countries. Like in India, you have a payment system which fits perfect to the Indian context and would not easily work in other countries. Yeah, I have the privilege that the country is so large, and therefore this idea from a 22-year-old man is such successful today in India. What does it mean, risk? Maybe we take a look to that. You are young. Your costs at the moment are quite limited. Maybe you're living at home or you're living together with some other student colleagues. Then when you would start to code something and to try it, your idea doesn't work for a pilot, for your cost situation would be limited. Your risk, you do not have a family, you do not have kids. It's getting more problematic when you have all this in a backpack and to take care that you have enough money that they can survive. For instance, I know a good friend, I was doing the same like you, and he started with 18 that he wanted to do a new kind of dictionary. He started a dictionary which is called Pict-CC. Today, it's the largest dictionary in the whole world. He started to have a software where you can easily have a dictionary where other people can bring new words inside and the moderator check, is this a good word? You can speak the word inside, and he made it in the beginning just for German and English. Today, this dictionary has 58 languages and is for some languages absolutely the largest dictionary. For English, it is the largest dictionary. And when you are using Google and you have some translations to Word, they are using this dictionary from a guy who is now 30 and still only 2 people are working in this company because he has a community of 30,000 people in many other countries who are participating in that. That he was increasing to many other languages is a funny thing because he has a close friend. He is a language genius and he's speaking 58 languages. And he is his moderator. That's a unique thing because it's just one person is moderating all these languages and he is only 20 years old.
No, this guy is now 30, but the language junior is just 22 years. He's an immigrant to our country, was originally coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's called Mohammed, whatever. And he's a fantastic guy. It's just, yeah, genius. We have some genius in our societies. Probably, I'm sure in Jakarta we have also some genius. We need just to take care of them. But in my opinion, when you have an idea, and therefore it's quite great to get in touch with entrepreneurs, just to see what they are doing, and that it's not that a large secret. They also did start small. You should not now get in touch with guys like the founder of Apple or the founder of Microsoft, because they have now very large and complex ideas. But in the beginning, they had also small and easy ideas. Now they have not only one idea, they have hundreds of ideas inside these large companies. And that way it's important to focus on one. And when you realize after 1 or 2 years it doesn't work, okay, you failed. But you did learn a lot. And your next idea you would do different. And I think that's the risk. And probably with an informatic idea, you would also have the possibility that some people are investing in you because they see this has a good potential. Because informatic idea, a fantastic idea, because there is a magical word which we call scaling. When you have made a software or a game, a small game, which some people are using a mobile phone, it's easy to scale up that not only 1 or 2 people are using it, that thousands of people are using it. When you're a shoe producer, it's not that easy in the same way, because you have to invest in large machines, you have to have large storage. It's much more risky in contrast to some informatic ideas. Because the digital life is digital, and you need not so much equipment like some other things, where you really need machines and transport, logistic, and all these things which you're not needing in informatic. Therefore, I have a close friend, he's a large investor, and he says if he would study now, he would study coding. Because you see that's a resource where you always will find a job, or you can realize some good projects. I like a lot that students say we are doing a project. They're not founding companies. They're following ideas in the project, and if it's nice, maybe there is coming out a company.
The professor of his department. Yeah. Okay. You have comments or questions?
Thank you very much, Prof. Johannes, for your information. I have 2 questions. First is, in our education stream, we have leveling in education, primary, junior secondary, and senior secondary. Could you please give information how to embed it, the business curriculum, insert or embed it into the existing curriculum? And especially we also have vocational education in the senior secondary education. How to make a strategy to insert this entrepreneurship education to this curriculum? The second thing is, I looked at your presentations in this strategy to education, entrepreneurship education. I looked they have employability. I still a little bit confused. How to could you please give explanation how to make employability insert, or how to make how to teach employability, because employability is I think it is attitude. This is not only come from the knowledge, but it come from the student attitude. Thank you.
You're welcome. Maybe I start with the second question, because the first one is a bit larger one. We have in some countries, we see the situation that you have students who are producing a dropout for the system. It means that this student did fail inside the school system. There are many reasons, maybe some knowledge reasons, some family reasons, and so on. we have some countries that started to offer entrepreneurship programs for that. And maybe just to jump back in the 80s, the term entrepreneurship education did get popular in the 80s of the 20th century. And it was social workers who made the term popular. It was not the business world who made it popular. It was social workers who realized there are some people in the society, some groups in the society who do not really know how to participate in a good way in the society. And therefore for them, entrepreneurship was an employability tool, because they wanted to foster the employability mentality of these people and to show them they have potential. Today you find, for instance, in Belgium a program for immigrants who are arriving in the society, they're a bit older, and it's clear they're not able to go back to the education system, to go through the full education system, and they offer them an entrepreneurship program just to learn how they could find a job or maybe create their own job. You find some countries like South Africa or also India, they foster entrepreneurship education. In India, they have the challenge, each year they need 100 million new jobs, because the society is increasing on the one hand tremendously and it's getting younger and younger. The average age in India is 27 years and it's still falling, that it's getting the younger society, and it needs 8 million new jobs each month. That's a challenge which is really difficult for the existing companies, and therefore they foster the youngster to get this kind of mentality inside companies, but maybe also to do something else. Therefore employability. The levels of education, I can explain how the most European countries were doing this, in particular our own country is doing this. And I'm involved in several African and some Asian countries, how they are doing this, and there is not a single solution for all countries. You find some countries, they have a good bottom-up movement. That some teachers make a different interpretation of the existing subjects and created a movement that in the next reform of the syllabus, things should be changed inside the syllabus. In my opinion, this is a very healthy movement, because when you have good multipliers from teachers, then you will normally bring it in a good way in the system. Because this is very authentic. When a colleague says that you can do this and that way. That's one way. You find this in some countries. In some countries you find a top-down development. Because they realize it's important, and maybe I bring an example from Africa, a country which is called Namibia. They realized we need to bring our generation in the 21st century, and they decided we will bring for all students in the 9, 10, 11 and 12 class a subject, a standalone subject of entrepreneurship. And it's the curriculum is oriented to the life cycle of an idea and development. In my opinion, it's quite a modern orientation, and it was a top-down decision to find space inside the syllabus and to train the teachers, because it was a very general discussion. It was not a step-by-step movement. Therefore, you find quite different developments. Both of them need people like teachers, like stakeholders who are involved, that it will be implemented successfully. And it's a super cool topic to learn, and it's a super cool subject when you have the opportunity to teach it. And therefore, the universities, in our university, we are training teachers from primary education up to upper secondary education, and we offer an entrepreneurship education program. We offer the entrepreneurship education program on the one hand in different subjects included. We call this access points. There's the existing entrepreneurship access points, like in art, in social science, in language, and in mathematics. And then we also have own entrepreneurship education courses.
where you foster particular and where the students at the university should learn that they have also own ideas. Because it's particularly important that the students are learning this to see I also have this kind of power, and it's not just the content to teach. When you get by your person passionate, then it's much more authentic. It's the same like with sport. When you have a good sport teacher who loves soccer, tennis, whatever, the students will love it too. Any other question?
It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe we collect some and.
Okay. Yang lain yang tadi yang datang bisa dikolek dulu siapa aja. Apa bentuknya?
Yes.
Ada pas kalau namanya tadi. Oke. Parah. Oke. Ada what of you? Ada what of you? Ada what of you? Okay. Another one? Another one? Going once, going two. Okay. Sisal ni, aduh. Sama problem. Pak, Eric. Ya.
Terima kasih Pak Herman. Thank you, Professor Lindner. So,
You can just call me Johannes.
Johannes. My name is Eri. I'm from the Faculty of Education. So my program study in educational technology. So my question is, it was interesting presentation. So I would like to know in detail how Austria implement the sense of the best practice about the entrepreneurship education. Because in Indonesia, we have been implementing in our curriculum, because we have also in the senior school, we have the art and entrepreneurship education. And we also introduced 5 competency for all the principals from primary to secondary. One of them is to be entrepreneur. But the implementation of entrepreneurship education in our case in Indonesia is such of the, for example, the role of the principal means that how the principal to be active links with the society in terms of the program. That's why I'm asking you into more detail, explain into more detail about the best practice in Austria. So what is the Austria implement source of the innovation? Because I do
Possible that we
agree,
could go back to the PowerPoint?
Yes.
because I do agree
Pak
that
Dian, can we go back to the?
because I do agree that, so you mentioned that the most important thing in the entrepreneurship education is to develop the new ideas. This is also we have been implementing what's called the five C for the learning pedagogy. One is critical thinking, creative, collaboration, and communication. I think it's just one of them, because you also mentioned in the European competencies, one of them is about the creating the new ideas. That's why I'm curious to know about how Austria school implement, and also in university, because you mentioned that introducing entrepreneurship education and the university level you need 2 semesters. But in primary and secondary school you need the 5 years. Because it's still confusing for me, because when you explain about the implementation of entrepreneurship education. So
Maybe for docents, you are welcome to join the 1 o'clock session. Solely for docents, solely for
Satu
yeah.
because you mentioned that it could be integrated in other subjects like the
Maybe I will explain this. I think there are different ways how you can do it.
yeah.
And I brought back the testing because implementation, are in different stages. You have the stage of early stage, and in this stage, the implementation looks quite different in contrast when you are in the transforming stage or when you have it implemented fully. And it's always a question what means implemented fully.
Yeah. So you explain about the best practice. Okay, I need to hear how you implement the best practice in Austria education system.
In that way, maybe I bring the school type, which was the innovator in ours. Maybe to explain, in our upper secondary system, we have 300 different syllabuses. We have a lot of them. We have a lot of different kinds of schools, although we have only 550 schools in upper secondary. Just to get a feeling, it's a very complex, diverse system. And we have one school type where we have 120 schools in upper secondary schools, and they were the innovators. They wanted to implement entrepreneurship first. And they started 20 years ago. How did this start? In the early stage, the ministry asked one school who would be willing to be the school where we want to make experimentations about entrepreneurship education. And it did start 1999, and it was a large research project up to 2007. And this school is still existing. It's the school where I still teach too. And it was our pioneer school. In this school, there was one acceptance. We all work inside the regular syllabus, but all other things we can change how we like to do it. And we did learn a lot, because we made research with all the kids, with the parents, with the teachers, with some stakeholders, and we made entrepreneurial attitude testing. We have a testing in the beginning, between, and still a lot of these testings are existing. Based on that, we decided which elements we can implement in many schools. Because it's always a question of costs, on the one hand, a question of how can you train these teachers, and which kind of teachers you start to train. And that way we started with two different kinds of teachers, because we were still in this transforming situation that we have interpretation of existing subjects. Today we have own subjects in this kind of school, plus we have in many other subjects written inside what they could do in the field of entrepreneurship, but not each year. They have some years written this inside. And just to bring an example, in language, there's written inside storytelling, pitching, and things like this, which are today in the entrepreneurial community are very popular. Just to show this is something which has a language context, and you should not move it only in the single subject. In the transforming situation, we have 3 periods of syllabus changes. We have the change 1996, we had the change 2004 and 2015. And always we changed also the syllabus in some elements. Today, in this kind of school and in 80% of all schools, we have a final examination where the students have to present an entrepreneurial project. This was going on movement up to this situation where we think it's a very good thing, and the students start to work with that 4 years in advance in a different development procedure. But we are still not in the final situation where we say that we will never change something again. We are always trying to find something. We have a lot of teachers who bring something new. And at the moment, we are just finishing a research with 40,000 students inside. It's the largest field research ever made in Europe, with 5 undercut countries, where we're learning with the challenges and where we try how we can learn with small and larger challenges in different subjects, and also starting in primary education. We are not in kindergarten up to now. I know that in Indonesia there are existing some kindergartens who are doing activities. We start normally with 7-year-old kids. And we start with 7-year-old kids, and 8, 9 and 10, we are using more the term self-efficacy to foster the self-efficacy. But I can explain you this later on. I have a poster with me where you get an overview of all the things what we are doing in the different levels. Maybe later I can give this to you, that you see how it is.
We're having Santi from Faculty of Economics. Are you student or lecturer? Okay, Pak Sandi. Program studi apa, Pak?
Program studi management.
Management.
Yeah, hello, my name is Shandy, lecturer from economic faculty, management, and I'm teaching e-commerce. My students always ask about how to make their own business. The reason why they ask that because I have several businesses myself, so yeah, they think they can because that's an example. So in Indonesia right now, there's a lot of market shifting. There's people going from online to offline and something like that. So some of my students already set up a business offline, and then they are kind of surprised because they have to change it to online. And some of my friends ask about that. So I want to ask about best practice from your school, from your university. How do you teach and explain to the student about how to sustain the business, how to cope with the market shifting, and maybe finally, if the business is no longer working, how to teach them how to stop the business and then do something else. Maybe
to teach how to cope. To teach.
True.
Yeah, I think we can see in the last 15 years there was a change in entrepreneurship education at business schools for this focus of startup programs. In the beginning, there was the hope that the business plan would be the instrument which can give not only an orientation, it can also give you some solutions. But we saw that a lot of people were not using this as a dynamic element. Today, the business modeling is probably the most popular movement, that people understand that a business model is not a stable thing. It's a strategic decision, and maybe you have to change this strategic decision. And therefore, some people also say when a company is increasing, the entrepreneur should not work in the company, he should work on the company. Because he should find out how can I, if the market is changing, how can I change my business model maybe that it fits also for the new challenges inside the market. But of course, some business model will maybe fail, or because if there is more digital, some business models, when you do not bring it in the digital life, they will not exist for a long term, or maybe only as a small company.
Bapak boleh gabung jam 1 untuk lebih intens lagi dengan beliau. Same time, same place. And you can borrow my book, How to Burn the Business Plan from. Okay, that was good, Pak. Saya senang kita belum berkenalan. Okay, mahasiswa, students, Ashraf. Participasi mulai.
Hello, my name is Ashraf, and from Informatic Education Science from Faculty of Engineering. I have a question. I have a thing. I was developing some project that we want to integrating the farmers, especially in 3T regions, which means like outermost and undeveloped region in Indonesia, how to make the sustainable capital funding for them. But the problem is the farmer in the undeveloped regions is they don't know how to use the technology. Do you have any suggestion for that?
Thank you. My first suggestion would be that you are doing, we call this an empathy map. That you really know your target group. Because very often technicians are super cool people, but they like to work on the solution and losing the orientation to the target group. And therefore it's always very important that you know a lot about your target group. I think your target group probably, maybe they have the technology of a mobile phone, they do not have computers. And it's very important also to understand how they are using the mobile phone, which things for them are easy. Because you're working with a group of people who have no technology education ever, therefore you have to understand how they are using things that you can give them something that really supports them. It would be the same when we want to make some programs, technology programs for primary education kids. We also have to understand for them, and a lot of things are much more easier than for me. My nephews can explain me a lot of things on my mobile phone which I'm not interested in fact at all, because I'm not using these things, but they explain me this, because they are intuitive, know a lot today. Therefore, the target groups are very, very different, and I can understand that people in cities sometimes have an orientation which is very different to people in rural areas, and therefore it's important to understand it, because otherwise it's really difficult to develop a solution for a group. For technicians, there was developed an entrepreneurship instrument which is called design thinking. It sounds like it would be professional, but it was made for technicians. It was developed by the company SAP in cooperation with Stanford, and maybe you are doing one time a design thinking workshop exactly for your idea and your going on procedure, and maybe then you also would find some more details how you could go on. This would be my advice.
Yes, as a design thinking that you should learn. Analysis, design, development, implementation, evaluation.
You find on YouTube a lot of small movies which are explaining this. Maybe some of them give you a first impression. Is it something what you would like to do?
Becoming a student, something. I missed the Farah, okay. Saya gugup kalau persis 90 derajat ini pinter lagi pasti. Mahasiswa Bapak Livana Giga 2 Pak, luar biasa mahasiswanya. Oke. Itu kasih nomor itu atau itu kode supaya dia kesini, boleh aja. Farah mau kesini? Mau kesini?
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Professor Johannes. Dear audiences, I'm gonna ask you a question about what is your opinion on social entrepreneurship first, and then would there be negative aspects of social entrepreneurship in your opinion? And the last question, how could entrepreneurship help SGs? That is all from me. Thank you.
The origin of department is?
My name is Farah Al-Zahra from Educational Psychology, majoring in psychology.
Wow.
Thank you.
Ini ada ibunya nih, ada ibu, ada her vice dean.
Social entrepreneurship, as I explained, it's something that we are working on problems of the society. I know that our students normally easily can generate ideas in two areas. The one is as a user, for instance for mobile phone, they are really creative to find new ideas. And the other things, to see problems in the society and find a solution for them. Therefore, social entrepreneurship is a topic which is inside the school system a very useful instrument that the students are learning that they have potential for ideas and they can do solutions. Internationally, the term social entrepreneurship is going back to Bill Drayton. He's the founder of Ashoka. It's a foundation, an NGO, which is looking, is a large, today they call themselves today a large social entrepreneur network, and they have Ashoka fellows around the whole world. I'm sure there are some Ashoka fellows in Indonesia, and you can take a look inside the Ashoka website, and then you find a lot of cool entrepreneurs and a lot of a very large diversity of solutions. I'm the first Austrian Ashoka Fellow. And it's they are looking for in many different fields, in education, in technology. And for instance, I know another Ashoka Fellow very well who created Wikipedia. He got the Ashoka Fellowship because he was changing the way how we can get knowledge and how we are sharing the knowledge. And just to see there's a wide variation of people who are doing something. You can do this with use of modern technology, that you give education. There is this cool Indian guy who opened up a university online to give university education to all people for free. I'm sure you know him. He has a large website with a lot of small movies. And it's the Khan Academy. He's a young man, a bit older than you, and he was developing this. In the beginning, or I know a guy, he was 12 years old, today he's 19, and when he was 12, he said he liked to raise up 1 million trees. Up to now, he raised up 1 billion trees, because he was able to create a whole movement, and a lot of kids with 12 participating, and there's a lot of groups in many countries who are doing this. And I think there's, some people say, when you're working with young people, you should start to dream. Things which you really like, you should do. We are living in the most privileged time ever. And that I really mean this. My family, my grandparents were very, very small farmers. And they lived in an area where it was not allowed to leave the area for them. They were fixed to this area. And they would never imagine that I could ever go to Indonesia, or that we own today a company which has a value of more than 100 million euros. And it's something which was out of their perspective from them. And I think that today a lot of things are possible. The digitalization offers a lot of opportunity for young people who see possibilities and have the resource of coding and some things like this. But there is in many other fields also possibilities going on. Therefore, I think it's probably the best time ever to do things in this area.
Ya, Ibu mesti bangga punya masa seperti apa? Sarah, Sarah atau Farah? Kita punya kawan baik Ashoka, mungkin nanti kita bisa undang Ashoka ke sini. Orang Indonesia perempuan, Ibu, this is one lady from Indonesia. She's very active in Ashoka Foundation. Really, I can't remember her name, but we're thinking of inviting her. There's power in women, yeah?
Women power is
super power, super active. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Farah. Farah. Okay, Kuku, where are you? Okay, stand up and give us a loud voice. Kuku, where are you from? English what? Oh, this should be flawless.
So, good morning, Mr. Lindner, and good morning, everyone. I only have one question. To be a good entrepreneur, what is the more important thing? To be an idealist one or to be a realistic one? First, we are here as a millennials. Most of us here, but then these events are millennials. We need to create something new. We need to create something different to make it good things. But on the other hand, we love an instant result. So, and one more thing, if you choose an idealist one, we only, in my opinion, we only get 1% of success. For example, like Bill Gates or like the founder of Google. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so what is a good orientation? Is it more to be realistic or not? In my opinion, as I mentioned before, it's good to dream. And it's good to dream, to see there's a lot of possible things. And I see very often when I work with people who are creating ideas that they are up at a special point, they are no more open. And they fail in imitation. Because when I start to work with people, when they are 15, 16, and we are developing ideas which we maybe like to realize, I always say in the beginning, what is the value which you like to generate? Maybe I bring an example to explain this. In Indonesia, is alcohol okay or not? It's not a good example, okay? Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, I bring an example. Someone made a bar mixer lecture about fruits. Bar mixer, shaking, and so on. And maybe, could you maybe say your name again? Kuku was doing this. His close friend in the neighborhood was doing this, and some other people. The first question is always when you say, okay, I like now to do something with that I first ask me, which kind of value do I like to generate with that? Before you are going on to develop the idea. Which kind of value? What do I mean when a young man like you like to go in the business of barkeeper with fruit juices, of course. Do you want to do this because you're a person who likes to make parties? Do you like to do this because you like to experiment with different kinds of fruits? Do you like to do this because you like to get in touch with other people, maybe in your case, particularly with women? Do you like to do this? There are several different values. And with the different values, you would generate totally different ideas. And it's very important to see this in the beginning when you are working on that. The next step, in my opinion, is that you start to think, for one idea, there are existing 100 different or more ways how to realize it. I could do, for instance, when I say I like to have a fruit bar, I can open up a fruit bar in Jakarta. That's probably the worst decision and the most expensive one, and doesn't fit to your age. In your age, you need to be more clever because you have less capital and less resources. Therefore, you need to invest more time in the different possible architectures how you can realize it. And there will maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 different ways how you could do it, which all fits to your level of resources. Then you have to decide. When you said 1% of success, I have no idea where you get the number, but I see this very often, that people are jumping inside the realization without a strategy, without a business model, we would say today, without an entrepreneurial design, how you could do this. And if you do not have an orientation, it's really difficult to go on. And therefore, some people are failing, some people have a so good idea that it's really stable against a lot of mistakes. And it's, in my opinion, important to find an architecture in your age which is not very cost intensive. In that way, that you could say, okay, it looks like it doesn't work, therefore I'm not going on with it. I like a lot to use the term project and not to say I'm doing a startup. Because it's okay in our society normally to do a lot of projects. And if you see, it could work, then you maybe say, I'm now getting any status to be a startup. But a project you can close and say, yeah, it was a nice idea, but at the moment we do not find the right target group, or at the moment the market is not able to take our clever idea, maybe we can do it in a different way later on. And sometimes you need to jump back to see the way of architecture which we have chosen was not the right one. It was not a good idea to open up a bar. Maybe it would be nicer when I could to do a cooking book about fruit juices. Or today, in your age, I have no idea, is it really popular in Indonesia, but I know in Europe it's really popular for youngsters to make a YouTube channel. I know youngsters, they are on YouTube, have a YouTube channel
for cosmetic things, and they have 500,000 followers. Each movie I think 500. Oh God, I never have 500,000 followers on any lecture. I should change something. And some of my students, they are doing stupid cosmetic proposals, and they are that successful. I'm very impressed about this, and I like this kind of students too, because it's so cheap for them. There's existing software, they are using the mobile phone. Yeah, that's it. The investment was really limited. Therefore, it's important to see which way I'm starting. It doesn't mean that I'm maybe in 2, 3, 4 years, when with this cheap way I'm successful, that I not open up a restaurant again or a bar. Because then I have a different capital situation and I can do this.
Professor Lindner, for the first time ever, I was being confirmed by my boss, Dr. Lindner, that this university is offering general course on entrepreneurship.
Very good.
Although this is a elective status, so there will be 4 other elective university-wide courses. One of them is entrepreneurship. This is really
very good.
Really good. And there are the 3 apa aja Pak Ridwan, coding, Pak Ridwan mata kuliah coding ya, coding dan big data, and leadership.
So I like this a lot because I think it's very good when there are students from different faculties in one entrepreneurship course. And in my opinion, you need 2 semesters. Because when you have 1 semester, when I have 1 semester, I have only 15 times that I'm meeting the students. It's not a lot. When you have 2 semesters, in a good combination with a bit e-learning, it can be really successful for a lot of the students.
2 semesters, 2 credit each.
Yep.
Okay, so you heard it, sir. Ya, gitu. Dan ini pertanyaan dari mahasiswa penting bagi kami lah, bagi semua untuk mendeteksi sebetulnya sih what sort of ecosystem that they need students to.
For the students?
Yeah, because
there is which kind of ecosystem? I think there is one ecosystem that it's when you are offering things like this, that it's also a normal part of the university that you offer this. But then you can offer a lot of extracurricular activities for the students, which could be really cool. In a very large university in Vienna, they offered in a very central place a startup center. And the startup center has only 2 employees, but 200 students who are working in free time there. They were able to create a network of students who like to participate in different activities of this startup center. And I'm very impressed because they are able to have a sensibility program for students in the first semester. And it's a large program now. It was in the beginning, I thought, okay, how can you organize this? And they wanted to organize by participating older students for younger students. It is a really very, very cool thing. And there are existing a lot of good formats. Later on, maybe I can show you some formats. For the students when they are in a higher age and when they are in the master program, a lot of universities have so-called incubator programs now, which is very successful when you are able to connect it with industry and where the students get better orientation in which fields maybe they are doing research or you're doing cooperation seminars, and that you see that you do not lose ideas what people are working on, and they publish it maybe as a researcher later on, and then they are gone. Therefore, incubator programs are quite good, and sometimes it's good, and it need maybe not to be inside the university, but to have a close connection with some accelerator programs. Because accelerator program is a term where you jump in with your idea, and maybe you have started to realize it, and it should help you to increase in a short time, that you get another level.
Ada anak-anak mahasiswa, UNJ adalah satu-satunya perguruan tinggi yang sangat dekat dengan Ciputra. Dan Ciputra itu banyak sekali koneksinya. Jadi sejak for the past, I was just talking about for the past 9 years, we've been working together closely with Ciputra. but UNJ belum memanfaatkan sepenuhnya itu. Jadi ini dan sudah adanya nanti semester depan mata kuliah umum kewirausahaan, jadi masih aktif. Yuk kita manfaatkan yuk. Pak Ciputra masih punya impian bahwa UNJ adalah satu-satunya LTTK yang membangkitkan pendidikan entrepreneurship. Itu amanah itu. Itu amanah. Ya, semoga you can relay this message. Dia tidak menengok perguruan tinggi lain yang di Bandung, yang di Makassar, yang di maaf, this a fact. Sejak 2009, dan masih berharap. Dan dalam sisa usianya masih pengen bagaimana UNJ. And I said, okay Pak, seorang entrepreneur harus positif, harus kerja keras, harus kreatif. So I'm building the dreams. This is we've been very close with Ciputra, but we have not made the best of it yet. They have lots of connectors. The angel something, angel itu yang angin, angel investors. Okay. So great. Ibu Elvi, ngomong-ngomong yang ibu bapak yang dosennya penasaran masih belum mau lagi, mau lagi jam 1 siang, mungkin bicara mengenai can you talk about the startup centers and incubators by 1 o'clock after lunch? Ya, ibu bapak yang dosen mau lebih dekat lagi, silahkan datang yang jam 1. Ini kan kebetulan awalnya untuk audiens yang lain, tapi dosen lain masih berada di ruangan sebelah. Jadi kita pakai manfaatnya buat teman-teman dosennya.
I have one small wish. I would love that someone is doing a picture because I need to show this that I was in the auditorium like this with so many people to my parents. Maybe someone is doing the picture for me.
Semangatnya. Are you doing the apa namanya? Selfie ya? Oke, panitia bisa nggak? Siapa saya kehilangan jejak ini?
And I would love that you do one, that you stand up, and I like to take cool. And we're making an action picture. Yeah. We can do this in the second time too. Stand up, please stand up. Woo! Thank you. One more picture. 1, 2, 3. I'd like to say thank you that you shared 2 hours of your life with me. And I hope that you can take a bit with you. Each person you meet today, you should see that this is something privileged, that we have the possibility to communicate. And probably you're the elite of the society. You should also see this, you have the wonderful opportunity to study, and that way take something out of that and give something back to the society. Thank you.
Oke, depan tadi puncaknya ya, jadi dia belum capek ya, 2 jam. Bagi saya lagi beberapa dosen yang mau lebih teknis lagi, sila datang yang jam 1 siang. Kami berterima kasih banyak. Di same place, ya. Dia diwawancari oleh jurnalis dari TVRI dan dari Kompas. Mahasiswa pendidikan bisnis kok tidak ada pertanyaan? Ayo, nilaimu belum keluar loh. Okay. Alright. Yes. Thank you very much for kami tadi dari Farah mengingatkan Mas Shoka. Kantor kami banyak sekali penelitian karena bagi kami adalah ucapan terima kasih kepada masyarakat adalah memberikan public lecture seperti ini. Jadi kami lagi akan datang karena seringkali free of charge, no charge whatsoever. Jadi datang aja. Oke, terima kasih banyak untuk kehadiran Anda dan kebersamaan kita, foto tangan semua. Dan kita foto bareng tadi dengan cara seperti tadi ya. Oke. Farah mau datang kayaknya udah siap-siap ketemu saya atau ketemu Johannes. Ya tanya aja.
Oke teman-teman, perkenalkan nama saya Funky Biswat dari Ciputra Community Development Ciputra. Bagi teman-teman yang minat untuk dunia startup, bisa gabung di ciputra.org, startup, bisa masuk di komunitas kita. Nanti semua event-event yang terkait dengan startup ataupun nanti ada akselerasi atau program inkubasi, nanti kita infokan lewat sana. Ya, bisa join di ciputra.org. Thank you. Oh, boleh. Kalau mau catat nomor saya di 08533 49 80 222 08 533 49 80 222 Funky FANKY. Bacanya Indonesia. Funky. Oke. Kalau itu dalam vlog. Oke, thank you.
Many countries in Asia have provided much more equity now, much more opportunities. Very, very experienced teacher
What have you
I have a